Alright, we are 10 seconds in, we have started, and we are running really late because I finally found my camera, but it took me forever to get it hooked up to my computer. But now that it is, we're going to go ahead and we're going to continue with our Deady Bear today. Today we should be getting the face sewn on for the parts of the face it's going to have. So, real quick, we're going to swap to a camera. Ta-da! The camera again. Alright, and we're going to get started. So, needle and thread, Deady Bear, fabric, and scissors. Alright, so as always, this thing has tons of loose threads on the fabric we're using. That's okay, we're not too fussed about that because that just is going to add to the raggedy appearance of our Deady Bear. Now, last week I kept getting myself in trouble by giving myself too generous a stretch of thread. So I'm going to try not to do that this week. Much as I wish I could do the longer stretch because it means, less time between having to swap out threads, I don't want to run the risk of what I was running into last week, where I would have so much thread that I ended up with a knot in it as I was trying to sew. So we're going to work with shorter lengths of thread this time, and hopefully we can avoid those knots. And I want to do a little bit of painting on it, but we're going to have to see if I have enough time, because it really depends on how the sewing for this head goes. And you guys are all seeing this as I do it. There's no, I'm not being smart and test sewing anything or doing anything on this Deady Bear when I'm not on stream. So it is all just as fresh as you guys are seeing it. That's why you guys get to see so many mistakes, is because I'm not smart enough to work on it ahead of time and make certain I'm not going to make mistakes. This is not, by the way, meant as a disparagement against anyone who does the smart thing. This is just me going, hey, this is how I roll. I don't pre-plan on these because, frankly, I don't have time to. And again, no shade on any creator or craftsperson that does have the time to do pre-planning and pre-scheduling. I wish that I could, because I'm certain that if I did test versions of things, then what I do on stream would turn out so much better than it does. But I have a very busy life. So do other creators, believe me. I'm just saying that in my case, that busy life precludes me actually doing, test versions of anything. It's just not happening. Which means you guys get to see the raw and uncut, exactly as it is, which probably makes for some very boring viewership, honestly. Because I don't edit the videos. I don't, you know, cut out the long, boring, okay, I'm making a stitch. Okay, I'm making another stitch. I don't cut any of that out. I don't know how. Let's face it. I try to be really honest about it. I have no clue what I'm doing. I don't know how to edit videos. These would probably be a lot more interesting if I did. Because then I could do those cool things like fade in and fade out. And, oh, hey, when we go over to me going on break for a second because mostly I forgot to grab some tool I needed. You know, you guys could see something other than, oh, there's suddenly something else on screen instead of what there was. But I don't know, people who watch these seem to enjoy them, so I'm going to keep it as the way I have been. I've got friends who are much, much, much more professional, much better put together. Personally, I think you should all go and give them watches. So, Blue Gray, Zero, Catherine, well, I don't think Catherine Reynolds streams anymore, but Mervin's Musings, you know, any of them, they do gaming, they do crafting. Outer Cop Workshop does some amazing crafting. Punkle Mix does some awesome crafting. Punkle Mix actually does a segment called Punk Junk, where he takes random household items and trash and he turns it into really, really cool, like, stuff for D&D and other gaming. Zero's amazing. So, if you ever want to see professionally put together, well done videos, feel free to go and view any of those. You should, even if you just like watching me derp around, no, derp is normal, futz around with random stuff, because they also sometimes futz around with random stuff and they make much cooler stuff than I do. That was my plug for other people's streams. Now, okay. Back to what I was doing. So you can see we are making another of those big, thick, black, grotesque seams along this bear's back. Again, we want to make this as Franken-Bear as we can. That's why I chose a thread that is definitely standing out, definitely dark against this bright yellow, green-ish, whatever you want to call it. Now we're going to seam all the way across to here, but when we're done, we're actually going to take the fabric and go this way, so that this half of the head is exposed and this half is mostly covered. Or maybe not. I might change my mind. I do that frequently, because I've seen it before. And having to be much more careful not to stab under my thumbnail than I normally am, because I was working on a different project earlier today and managed to drive a pretty substantial hunk of metal up under my thumbnail, and it started bleeding, and I don't really want to aggravate that, so that pretty substantial project, by the way, is the pin board you see in the background. I wanted a place to store and display all of my enamel pins because I had for a long time had them displayed on my backpack, but I discovered while I was in California that the pins kept falling off as I was traveling around, and I don't want to lose any of them. So I made the decision to swap from having them on a wearable item to having them somewhere where I could display them but not have to worry about them falling off and being lost. And for a while they've been displayed on a smaller version of that, but the corkboard that was used at the time was kind of gross. It was several years old. It had been shoved into a space that was filthy, and so it really needed a lot of love. And even with all the love I could give it, I could not make it look good again. So it's been, that's been how things have been displayed, but I really wanted to do a nicer, better looking display, and so I found some corkboard sheets that were 12 by 12, and I managed to find a frame that was also 12 by 12, and I just kind of, took the glass out of the frame, which I now have a 12 by 12 sheet of glass sitting in my room, and hopefully it won't break. Haven't figured out what to do with it yet. I do know that that different sheets of glass I've gotten before, generally by taking them out of a frame, that I didn't want the actual glass. But they have proven before to be like an excellent way to protect things from something hot or something wet. And so I've used them that way. I'm sure I will find a use for it at some point. Until then, it is stored between two of the 12 by 12 sheets of cork, because I figured that's probably the best way to keep it from getting broken, is stored between things that will protect it some. So, alright. Now here comes our question. Do we do it this way so that it's the opposite side from the arm that is exposed? Or do we pull it over this way so we can get that nice split face look much more easily? I think I like that split face look. So, we're going to trim some of these loose threads. I'm not cutting them off completely. I'm not, pulling them out. I can pull them out some, which ends up with the fabric looking a little frayed at the edges, which I am very cool with, but I don't want to completely pull them out, because honestly then I will end up with fabric that is nothing but frayed. And it's not going to do me much good. I think I like this way. do want to pull it over so that ear is completely exposed. Even though, you know, bone ears are not really a thing. We're going to go ahead and do one last stitch over here. And then I'm actually going to do something different than what you've seen me do before. So instead of just stitching, no, I like the frayed edge better. Instead of stitching along the edge like I normally do, I'm going to come back through here. And this is just going to be a few minor things, because I don't want it to be super visible. So we're going to go back. And we're mostly doing this just to tighten things up while also hiding the thread as we move it to the other side. So it's visible, but it's not super subtle. And this is a trick I actually do a lot when I'm crocheting. And I need to get one color of yarn from one end of a project to the other. And a lot of times you'll see how I do it is by actually crocheting over those other strands. And that's kind of what I'm doing here, but not quite. So I'm going to go once more with feeling. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use this and kind of tie it into the already existing fabric, or the already sewn on fabric, so that we can kind of pin that down. Now, back over to this. We're going to make certain that that one ear is completely uncovered. And we're going to go through. And what we're doing is we're just kind of tacking this piece of fabric into the other pieces. Bit too vigorous there. We'll be coming back to sew some of this to ensure that it stays where we actually want it. So I don't want to go too tight or too vigorous on that. Because we definitely want to ensure that we still have these bits here. But hold that just a touch over. And I considered coming through and using like Mod Podge or some other thing to do this instead of trying to sew it in place. And believe me, those options are still on the table as a possibility. But I'm going to try not to do that. Why? Because I'm a masochist. Okay. Why I don't want to do that is I don't want to risk this just being okay, let's glue shit together bear. I want him to very much remain a stitched up monstrosity of a bear. And to think that Mod Podging things on would change the actual appearance, I guess. Sorry, I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase it to explain what I want, what feel I want for the bear. And the big thing is I want for him to have a very macabre. Is that how you pronounce that word? Macabre. I've always been saying it. Actually, I think at some point when I was younger I said macabre, but you know, I'm pretty sure it's pronounced macabre. So I'm going to pull that little loose thread out, and I'm going to tuck into this already some seam here, and then we're going to come up through it and go right back in. We're basically, just like I said, tacking this piece down. Because we want it to stay in place. And I'm going to be adding a little bit of extra stuff that will help with that, but not just yet. Right now, we need to So what I'm trying to do, there we go. You know, as I stab myself repeatedly. I'm just doing my bind off, you know, the 3 stitches that I always do. I guess if it's 1 stitch done 3 times. No. I always forget just how sharp this blasted needle is. Right. I'm not going to be able to do it again, so I'll just have to come back and go over that to keep it from getting loose. Right. We're making progress. Doesn't look like much just yet, but we're going to get there. Goal is to finish up all but the painting tonight. If I have time to do the painting, great. If I don't, that's okay. But I want to have it to the point where we don't have much left to do on it next Sunday. Because I'd like to get in at least one more Spooktober craft. But if we don't, that's okay too. There's always next year. And hey, next year I will not have just moved, and therefore I will know where all my crafting stuff is. And hopefully we will have figured out where all of the frankly massive spiders we've been getting in the house have been coming from. Like, I took one out today. That was a wolf spider. She was big and beautiful, and when I say big, I mean she was huge. Very impressive size, very fast moving, and boy, she did not want to go into the little thing that I catch spiders in to take them outside. No siree, she did not want that. Finally got her to behave a bit better for me, and I got her outside, because that's where she needs to be, not in my house. And don't get me wrong, I love spiders, but she would be at bigger risk in here, and more likely to get hurt than she would if she were outside. And it's one thing with small spiders in a house, because one, that didn't hurt. They're tiny, so nobody really notices them. I've got 2 kids who are absolutely terrified of spiders. And while I'm not really worried that the kids would hurt the spider, because honestly they're too scared to touch the spiders, I am worried that I would be working and they would be, afraid. And so they might go get my partner, who is not quite so forgiving of spiders as I am. And there's a very good chance that we would be short one spider in the world. And you can say, oh, don't kill spiders, they'll get blue in the face, but when confronted with a spider of fairly large proportion, even the most loving, caring, adores spiders person is going to be at least somewhat jumpy, startled, worried, and that's just a recipe for a dead spider. And you've got someone like that isn't a huge proponent of, hey, leave the spiders alone indoors, they eat bad bugs. You just don't want to risk it, that's all. So for part of this, I'm not folding things inward. Mostly because it's too awkward and tangled. We're gonna say it's a style choice, though. For style. We're getting to the point that I can start folding inward, though, so that I'm gonna be doing some creative cutting to shape once we get up a bit. Get to line up like that, put it while I do want to go up the back of the head with stitches, like we're doing, I don't want to go so far up the back that we lose that one eye that we want covered. And the reason I don't want to lose that one eye is I am going to be sewing on a button eye or painting on a black eye. Technically I've got safety eyes, but I'm pretty sure I would literally have to stab a hole into the eye that's already there to use one. And I don't really want to do that. I could. Hold on just a second. What happens if I pull it up? I might be about to ruin a ton of hard work and have to go back and redo a lot of this. But I found an idea. And I want to at least try it. I don't think it's going to work if I can make the cuts that I need. I just realized I pulled it off camera. Again, I am so bad about that. Almost. So I cut a fairly gross, ragged hole. And here's why. There we go. Now, clip that. Now see, that ear is actually going to hold the fabric in place for us, right where we wanted it. So now, I can just go up and stitch right where I was along the back and then do a fold here, a fold there, a little bit of creative cutting to get rid of that. We'll do the cutting a little closer to it because I don't want to risk cutting off something that I will need. The great thing about fabric is you can cut more off later. The problem is you can't add it back if you cut too much. So, I mean, I guess you technically could. I could sew on patches to cover up what I cut off, but I'd rather not have to. This over this way, doing the same, going hit stitch we've been doing all along. Great thing about this particular project is it's really hard to fuck up, because the more awful and horrific it looks, the more it just fits the Deady Bear aesthetic. Keep dragging it back towards me, and the reason is so I can see it better. I don't have bad eyes per se. Like, I've got a prescription for glasses, but they really only get worn if I'm doing things that are, like, I used to joke with callers when I was still doing IT, that if I was remoting into their PC and it was hard to see things, I would say, oh, time to get my reading glasses on. And, they of course thought that was hilarious, but the thing is, I was actually grabbing my glasses and putting them on for that specific purpose, but I don't really need them every day. I don't even have to wear them to drive. So it's not that my eyes are bad, it's just fine details can sometimes escape me, especially with tasks like sewing. So if you ever see me drag something really close, it's because I'm just trying to see it a bit better. Yeah, it looks good. Now, there is some unneeded fabric, and we're going to sew right back down to that point. And if y'all ever see me swap which side I am sewing from, it's just me being dumb. Like, if I really wanted to make things look good, I would always sew from the same side. I wouldn't swap over like I do. I certainly wouldn't sew, where you can see the seam and the edges of things. That's a big no-no. Let's if you want it to look good. But that's not necessarily the goal of this project, so I can be a bit lackadaisical. Our bear has had quite the cranial trauma. Among others. I'm hoping I will have enough to get all the way over here, but we'll see. Might not, if I need to swap threads again. You guys have seen me do it already. It's not exactly hard. Once he's all sewn up and painted, I've got one last special touch I've got planned for him. So. Speaking of actual stuffed animals, you can see behind me the wall, well, not really wall, but the hanging, I think it's actually meant to be a shoe organizer now that I think about it. Anyhow, I hung it from the back of my shelving unit, and am filling it up with my plushies. Some of these are very old plushies, some less so. Like up at the very top, which you guys can't see in mine. I'll show you guys that later. But I've got some toys that my mom sewed for me when I was a very, very little kid, like infant kid. I've actually got on the other side of the shelf, there is a stuffed lamb that was given to me in the hospital when I was a little bit, so that one is very old. And then in my closet I have some other plushies that I just can't think of a way to safely display, and they are old, and I don't want to risk them getting damaged. One of them actually belonged to my brother, and has been in my care for many years. My brother wanted me to watch over him while my brother was in Guatemala on his church mission, and when he came back, he just never got him. He always planned to, but he got married, and his wife did not want that particular toy in the house because it was dirty and gross. Well, yeah, it's a very, very well-loved toy. My brother kept that toy with him for years. When he was little, that was the toy that was always in his hands. To the point that when my mom hand-painted, she would blow eggs, if y'all know what that means, where you make a small hole in an eggshell, you blow the yolk and the white out, and then you paint the shell once it's had a chance to be cleaned out some. She did that for us a lot. Like, we have multiple eggs like that. And the one that she painted for my brother one year, particular toy, like sitting on a toy rocking chair, or a toy rocking horse. Rocking horse is the word. And that was one of my brother's hand-painted eggs. Was his toy, because that toy was so much a part of his life. So, I've done my best to keep it, to care for the toy. But it's in my closet, and I'm like, I don't know what I want to do with this, because, it belongs to my brother, and it's very old and very precious. It's older than he is. My parents found it in their house on an Air Force base when they were moving in there when my brother was a baby. And it's been his whole life, pretty much. Actually, they might have found it in the house when they were moving in, when my brother was not even born yet, when I was pregnant. They moved a lot, because of the military. Dad retired when I was 4, so I didn't have nearly I didn't have it for the military, let's rephrase. I definitely had the lets me constantly growing up, but that was, sort of. I had it as a teenager, but I didn't have that experience when I was a little kid. But as a teenager, yeah, my dad had gotten a position. He'd been a teacher my whole life, and then he got a position as a principal, or I think it's called a position as a principal. And so it meant moving all the way across the state to a completely different area that, than where I'd grown up. And, I know others who have gone through that same experience. It hasn't been a great one, but in my case, it got me away from the bullies that had made my life miserable for pretty much my whole schoolhood. So for me, it turned out to be a pretty good thing. Though, by that point, I was so traumatized by the bullies I'd been dealing with my whole life that I didn't really trust the other school kids. And it really hampered my ability to make friends. Because I was always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Okay, so you're pretending to like me. Why? What are you getting out of this? What's your long game? And in most cases, it turned out they didn't have one. They just genuinely wanted to be my friend, and I was not in a good spot to accept that. So, eventually I reached a point where I could trust other kids, and I did make friends, but it took longer than it really should have. But there's only so much that, anyone can do about past trauma and how it shapes present experience. Like, we don't get to choose for ourselves how that trauma is going to shape us. I wish we could. At the same time, we don't get to just, throw in the towel and say, well, it's already done. Nope, nothing can ever change this. Because that's not true. If we work at it, if we do therapy, honestly, a lot of therapy, if we prioritize our mental health and make good connections with others, we can overcome that kind of trauma. It's just really hard. And I understand any person who makes the decision that, you know what, this is too hard. I'm not putting myself through this. I'm not putting myself out there where I can be hurt. And I get it. Believe me, I get it. I was incredibly lucky with the friends I did make. Who, for the most part, understood that I had been through a lot. And showed themselves over and over to be trustworthy and worth my time, worth my attention, worth my trust. And in the end, I'm still friends with some of them. Some I've lost touch with, but you know what? That's okay too. It's not necessarily a bad thing if a friend is only part of your life for a while. That doesn't make it a failed friendship if, you know, you grew apart or life just moved in such a way that you didn't stay together. That's not a failed friendship at all. That is a case of a friendship that ran its course and came to a natural conclusion. And, you know, coming to a natural conclusion, that's not a failure, that's a success. Sometimes we meet people and they are exactly what we need at that moment in our lives. But that doesn't mean they're going to be the exact thing we need for the rest of our lives. And it's okay. It's not, you didn't break your friendship. You didn't, I mean, of course, there are definitely going to be situations where you did. And sometimes when you break those friendships, it hurts. It's rough. Sometimes friendships don't end in a natural conclusion of having run their course. Sometimes that friend will hurt you, or you hurt them. And if you're the one who hurt them, you should try to make amends. But you shouldn't spend the rest of your life kicking yourself for something you did. If they hurt you, you shouldn't spend the rest of your life in pain because somebody hurt you. Life isn't necessarily all fun and games, but it also shouldn't be torture. And that's about all there is to it. If you are in a situation where you're so caught up in that past trauma, that past pain, that life is torture for you, then please reach out to someone. Get help. And I'm not saying that in a you're broken. I'm saying that in a that is a painful way to live. And there are people who can help you so that you're not in pain. Some types of pain are chronic. You can't get past them. You can't heal them. But you can at least try to do something to just find something that helps relieve that pain. And believe me, I understand I don't want to get therapy. It took someone who was a friend at the time literally threatening to do a wellness check on me, aka call the police to come and check up on me. This was before most of us realized that all police were dangerous and wellness checks were actually putting people who were struggling mentally or emotionally at risk. So don't feel like my friend was, trying to be purposely cruel. No, they were trying to help. And I was in a very bad space at the time, and they were honestly very worried that I would kill myself. Sorry to get dark, but, so they threatened to do a wellness check, to call the cops and have them come out. And it was basically hey, either you have them come out, or, or either you, end up with them coming out because you are a danger to yourself, or you go get some help. And it spurred me into going to get help. And that help was something that I desperately needed. Like, it was frustrating. I felt I was being forced into it, but I definitely needed it, and it led eventually to my diagnosis of ADHD. It led eventually to my diagnosis of insomnia, and to us discovering that, oh hey, when Mason actually sleeps, Mason doesn't want to die. Very novel concept for me, not wanting to die. I'd lived with wanting to for so long that not wanting to felt really weird. A good weird eventually, but very weird for a while. I wasn't quite sure what to do with it at the time. Now I happily accept that, okay, it is normal to want to wake up in the morning, or in my case, the afternoon. I'm just adding a few stitches right now, by the way, to help shape the ear. I'm just stabbing myself in the finger again. What else would I be doing on a Sunday morning at 7 a.m.? Stabbing myself in the finger is obviously the best use of my time. Alright. So aside from some very minor things, and those are mostly things of the, okay, I need to paint, we're pretty much done. Like, I need to decide, am I going to sew on a button for the eye, or am I going to paint on a fabric one? And do I want to paint on some gore and disgusting, gruesomeness, or am I going to let the fact that this teddy bear has visible organs do that for me? But there we have it. The sewing bits are done. So, you can see his guts hanging out at the bottom. You see a little bit of the guts there. Oh, I need to get that. Well, that strand can be tucked in later. I'm sure you might have. Yes, I have something I can use to tuck it in. Yep. Okay. So we can see his back is a mess of sketches. His front isn't much better. Now, I think I'm going to try painting on the, or coloring on the eye. And if it doesn't look good, okay, I can fix that later. So, it's actual paint, not fabric paint. I don't have any paint brushes handy. Brushes. We're sitting at just about an hour. So, I could end the stream here, and then go do the painting next week. Should be much easier to do my stream and my painting and stuff now that I have things set up in a better way. Let's phrase it that way. If you've noticed, I haven't been squirming around, adjusting how I'm sitting, etc. nearly as much. That's because I'm in an actual chair. I'm not sitting on my mattress. Which, nothing wrong with sitting on your mattress. But it's not conducive to gaming and streaming. I might need to get something that's a bit more cloth, because this is leather. It might be real leather, it might be fake leather, I don't know. But it sticks to my skin, so maybe, we'll see. Alright, for now though, I do think what I'm going to do is had a lot of fun watching us make the Deady bear. He is so close to done that next week his part will take hardly any of the strain. And then we can focus on another project. I haven't decided yet if it'll be more poly clay, which I had a lot of fun with last year, or if it's going to be painting, or even just starting to color some of the paintings or drawings I've been doing for Inktober this year. Either way, it's going to be fun. I will see you guys next Sunday for another crafting stream. Probably going to be in the middle of the night again, because that's when I prefer to do my streaming. But thank you guys for coming out. I hope that you had a lot of fun. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. And I'll see you next week.